Welcome to another episode of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, your source for actionable real-life examples and advice to help you move to the next level of investing. Each week, we help you make a quantum leap in your business, your finances, and/or your life. We want to help you take back control, help you thrive during chaos, and lead you through the current crisis to a better tomorrow. For more resources, check out smartrealestatecoach.com and be sure to give us a rating and review on your favorite platform.
Okay, welcome, Wicked Smart listeners, to another Wicked Smart Masters class. Today we are turning the tables on this historic show. It's episode 500. We're going to turn the tables on Chris and get in a discussion with him, ask him a few questions. My name is Russell Ham. I am with three of the coaches within the Wicked Smart community. I'm from Southern California. I joined in 2019. Also with me is Mike Makredes from Central California. He joined in 2017. And then not only we have Rick Abbiati from Southern New Hampshire who joined us in 2021. Let's get into it and let's have a great discussion here.
Rick, Rusty, I think because of the Wicked Smart accent, you did pretty good. But I think maybe we should have Rick do the New England accent. Maybe at the end he can bless us with some New England accents.
All right.
But good job, Rusty. So that open.
Thank you.
All right, let's dive in here, guys. I don't know. Let's go to the old fart first. Mike, you've been in this since 17. From when I flew out to see you, you can fire away first. We're gonna get into some cool discussion, I hope.
Yeah, it's 2017. It's been quite a journey. A lot has changed over the years, especially with the community. It's grown quite a bit since I've been here. The content, the resources that we have. Everything's grown so much, and can't thank the community enough. You, Chris. It's been quite a journey over the last 7 years.
I'm super glad. So tell me what's on your brain. No, tell me what you think's on the Wicked Smart listeners' brain that they'd want to hear from me.
All right. I got a couple questions here. I think that'd be great for you to.
Right away.
Given your extensive experience navigating ever evolving market dynamics, how do you perceive the current landscape of the creative real estate niche compared to previous years?
I saw you guys wrote some questions. I'm actually going to answer this pretty broadly, this particular question, because I don't think my answer would change, Mike and Rick and Rusty, because the change is always going to happen. Like if you look at creative real estate, I get that every podcast that I'm on, other people's shows. The fact is, if we know there's one constant in real estate that it constantly changes, the issue is not, okay, like this dramatically changing, we got to go over here, or we got to go in this direction. It's really every single quarter, every single half year, every single year, it's what pond are we fishing in based on the market constantly changing. What I mean by that, you guys can throw in some comments if you want, or ask me for clarification, but I'm talking about things like, okay, COVID hits, and for just 2 months, I think it was February, March of 20, and we're sitting here, 5 years later? The people were lost. They wanted us. So our properties, if you remember, you guys were all here, the takens, what we call a taken for them to know is a property in the contract. They went through the roof. But then literally just 90 days later, they were all selling on their own. FSBOs are popping like hotcakes. You guys remember that. So what I mean by fishing in different ponds is we shifted right then, right? FSBOs, we could help then. 90 days later, we couldn't. FSBOs were popping. So we'd go back to expireds, or Rick does a lot of work in niche lists. So it's changed, but it's not like you can pinpoint and go, we got to go in this direction. Whereas if you're in, I don't know, pick a niche. If you're in multi, you could say, okay, things are dramatically changed. I got to go geographically over here. That's the beauty of creative real estate. You don't really have to pivot that much. Just know how to pivot. That makes sense, you guys? Or anything to add?
Definitely. Yep.
Rick, since I said it, let me turn it around for you guys one more time. For the first time, I should say. You did niche lists. So when I just said niche list, some people are probably going, what the heck are you talking? Because we usually do FSBO, expires. Just talk about niche lists for a second. Just give one or two examples, I guess.
So niche list, we use, whether it's PropStream or Real eFlow, a data source. There's plenty of them out there where you can filter criteria of who you're looking for or who you're going to call. And that could be somebody with high equity, maybe that's owned the property for 15 plus years. Could be non-owner occupied properties. It could be people who own 3 or more properties. It just depends. You may want to look at some that don't have a lot of equity. You just never know what you want to target. But that's the thing about niche lists. They're niches. And when you do target them, one of the differences is you have to be very careful not to call them, because if they're on the do not call list, it's not a wise idea to call them. Whereas what we're calling expires, FSBOs, withdrawals and canceled, those people had their properties actively on the market.
So we're not, because
they expect phone calls.
Yeah. It's funny. So on my desk, you guys, I do niche lists just sparingly, but on my desk are the 3 that Sue's working on now. So I not top of my head wouldn't know them, but here's what we got. Rhode Island with multiple properties. Rick, you work a list like that. So if you're in Rhode Island, you have multiple properties, we're hitting you. Another one was low equity and back taxes. So little equity and they owe taxes, great sub-2 potential. Another one is free and clear, delinquent on taxes, so it might be inherited, and out-of-state owners. Well, even that, there's a whole bunch in that category. So those are the 3 that we happen to be working, and it's sitting on my desk here. So that was a long answer, Mike, but hope that helped.
Well, that was great. All right, I got one more for you, Chris. Or let's Rusty. You want to go next?
You got it, Mike. Go for it.
All right, let me go one more here. Reflecting on your journey and the wealth of knowledge you've gained, if you had the opportunity to start over, what key strategies or decisions would you approach differently?
Okay, so also a familiar question, I guess. Let me tell you this. I wouldn't change much, to be honest with you, if I had to start over from tracking with you, because I'm a little fluffy like this. I think everything happens for a reason, right? It's like, okay, well, it happened. I wouldn't have changed it. However, if you said logistically in protocol, if I was to plot myself into your market, Mike, for example, what would I have done differently? I would hire an executive assistant day one and a VA calling for me day one. It's the only thing I would do differently. I wouldn't change what I'm doing because I love what we're doing, and I think that it lets anyone survive in any market, up, down, sideways. So I wouldn't change that. I would just change who I hire and how fast. Now, if you hear my story, people hear my story, go, well, you said you couldn't afford it back then. No, but I would have found a way. I would have dragged a partner in or found a way or got business funding with the benefit of hindsight. The other thing I would do is this, and I thought this just as I was saying it. Coaches. So I've always had coaches. You guys know that. But for the wicked smart listener to understand, the fact is I was always a solopreneur all the way till 17. So solopreneur meaning it was always me. Building houses, flipping, condominium, just me. You might have help, but there was never a team. Now, what's the constraint on that? You guys know from coaching our students. The constraint is you're going to max out. Like, I don't want to water down making $1 million, but you can get to $1 million by hustling more, by getting up earlier, by doing more follow-up. You can. So your lifestyle doesn't get any better, but you can get to $1 million. I really think anyone could do that with the right discipline. So the difference I would do is I would seek out other coaches for other areas that I need improvement in earlier. I didn't do it till December of 17. I found Brett Gilliland with Elite Entrepreneurs in December of 17. If I met him in 14, who knows what would have happened. That's the only thing I would have changed, because he teaches what? Scaling. Get yourself out of the business and become the CEO of your business, or stay in the pieces you love to do. That's the big difference, Mike. And I literally thought of that piece as I was answering your question the first time, saying, no, everything was fine. So I hope that helped. You guys got any questions that far away, but that's my thought.
No, I've always heard you say that exact statement, right? If you were to drop me in random city in the United States, what would I do? And it's been the same, right? You'd have hire an executive assistant and a VA to help you with calls. If you didn't have the means to do so, you figure out a way to get started at least, right? And really propel you, give you the momentum to drive business. So, yeah, it's been consistent. And
that sounds like a good reality show. Maybe something like
yeah, it would be, right?
Yeah, I got one, Chris.
Yeah.
We call them casualties, right? We have associates in the community that have come and gone for whatever reason. You started in 13, correct? Doing terms?
13 by myself. Yep.
Yeah, by yourself.
Yep.
what was it that kept you going, right? Because terms is not it's not common, right? And it probably took you a while to kind of get your feet wet and get you, I think it was 12 AOs, and then you needed you needed money like you needed water, right?
Yep.
What kept you going? Because not everything was all roses, and so those dips, those challenges that you had, what kept you going? Because like I said, we've had some students or some associates run into those challenges and they just stop. What kept you going? Yeah, what kept you going?
What you describe, as you guys know, is normal, right? We deal with it with coaching. Like, this sounds great, and then the life happens, and entrepreneurship becomes hard, and it sucks sometimes, right? So, a couple of things, no particular order. I thought of when I was reviewing this. One is association, right? So, I was stuck from 08 till 12 before your question time of 13. I was stuck in my own whirlwind and not going out and seeking help. And the second I did, it changed it. So one is association for sure. In other words, who you hang out with. And sometimes you got to put yourself in that kind of in that lane to meet the right people, right? Almost every idea, you guys will hear a rant coming out next Monday in the community. And you'll hear a bunch of horror stories I list. And you guys have been around, you hear a lot of them. But the fact is, almost every idea that I launched was positive came from association. Almost every single one of them. So that's one thing. Second one, basic stuff, but stuff that people won't grind it out and do, is watching what you say. So in my case, it was affirmations. I literally remember my first office after all the crap, I had affirmations all over the wall. Just like I did when Nick was in a coma. I had affirmations all over his wall in his hospital. I just think it's really powerful what you're letting in your brain. And then health. Now, that's not the case for everyone, but for me, it's super, super cool to make sure I'm in the right health, to have the right energy to go do the business, right? So Rusty, you said when the tough times come or whatever. Yeah, that's when you got to have the energy, because that's when it's going to beat the crap out of you. So again, these aren't in any particular order, but I think these are all super, super important. Did I miss any? Yeah. So I still do it. I've been in here this week every morning around 5:30. I go in the room before I turn on any lights, and I do visualization just for 2 or 3 minutes to some background music. That was super important back then, but I got to tell you, it was hard to sit in the chair back then. I remember where I was and what I was thinking. It was real hard because I'm not sure if I believed it yet, but I just did it. I did it every single day. And sometimes it takes 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years to come to fruition, for sure. So that was a biggie. 2 other things, personal travel. Now this might be a little different, but when I was going through that, it was important for Ken and I to go, all right, in 6 months or 9 months or years of the year, let's book this. And that got me to keep pushing for that. Number one, number two, to have a break, right? So that was super important. And then quarterly events with anyone in our space or a person, if it was going to go get with a person, so that quarterly certification happened. Because you think of our community, if they don't get around us quarterly, they just disappear. It's real hard because life happens in one when you just flip off. So again, long answer, but I think I hit a bunch of things that came in mind when I was going through that crap.
Yeah, Chris, I think one of the things that, and I know from my perspective, and I know it's common also, is to get clear on your why and revisit your why every day.
Yep. Okay, so prior to 13, I had one of my mentors was big on both what Rick said and what I said earlier. He would combine sort of his whys, affirmations, and his goals, but he would rewrite them like hundreds of times. So he'd get a pad of paper out and each morning write out whatever he was, let's say the top 3 goals. He'd write that out. There was some power, and I believe this even more now than I did then because of the iPads and the tablets and everything. There was some power in the old-fashioned pen and paper. And back then, is all he had. He's older. But the fact is, there's power in it, and I still do it to this day. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, Rick, but on that note, if you guys are not journaling, I suggest you journal. If you're journaling, I suggest you do something different, like try journaling with your left hand. Try that one on besides. Now, Nick had a switch when he was in a coma to righty to lefty, and he's been doing that for years. That's hard. I try it in your journal. It gets a different brain waves going. It's very interesting. So try writing your goals out lefty. There's a takeaway for the Wicked Spot listen. I want you to try that next week and tell me how it went.
Hey, so you mentioned stacking earlier. Rick and I we talked about it a little bit last night. Stacking versus shiny object syndrome. what are your thoughts on that? Because we run into that a lot in the community as well.
Okay, if I'm tracking with you, Rusty, I think you mean like stacking, staying consistent, stacking in one lane versus shiny object. Am I tracking?
Yeah, because people will stack, but then they see the shiny object. Oh, I need to get that right now because I was told to get it, or or somebody in the community has it, so I need to get it. But or they see something, like notes, or they see some other program out there, and they think that they want to stack.
Biggest challenge in real estate right now, I think, to your question. I think, let me summarize it where I think the challenge is. The challenge is mismanaged expectations. And I think mismanaged expectations comes from all of the Wicked Smart listeners listening right now are bombarded by marketing. People who know how to market well. Okay, so they're telling them they can have the Lamborghini they rented. It's in the video that it's not even theirs. They tell them they can have the mansion and that they can get rich quick. We scream from the rooftops, you're not going to get rich quick, but this is going to be the strongest path you can take. So I think it's not easy. It's not your magic bullet answer you're looking for, but it's managing your expectations. Example, when I started in the brokerage after going through a nasty experience in the building business in the 90s, I said, well, I can, so-and-so in town is selling 100 homes a year. I can do that. This is a great example of not giving up. And so I went over, I said, can I be an intern? She said, yeah. Then I find out who her coach is. She says, here's the coach. I said, great, I hire him. So I think in my mind, this is just what our students do sometimes. I think in my mind, 100 homes, she's doing, I can do it. I didn't ask how long it took, how sucky it was. I just said, I can do it. That was, I think it was in 95. So it took me the 5th year, I hit 100 homes. 5 years. So to your point, instead of, I went to my 2nd year and I hit 46 and I quit because she's doing more than me. I just grounded it out and stayed with my mentor. So there's 2 things. There's managing expectations, sticking it out so you can stack, to your question. And then 3rd, staying with your mentor group, whatever it is for you. It doesn't have to be us. And I want to make sure we're clear on that. We're all hanging out in the Wicked Smart community, guys, but we're not so naive to think as a Wicked Smart listener, we're the only thing. I'm just giving you my experience. There's a lot of niches, but to Rusty's question, that can be to a fault too in the industry because there's a lot of great niches. How about you master one for 3 to 7 years? Everybody's going to do a different pace and then start stacking those niches. But until then, stack within your own niche. And Rusty's question meant all these little pieces you got to learn as you go. And again, they're not easy. They're just going to distract you. Did I answer it, Rusty?
Of course. Yep. So I've got a couple questions for you, Chris. So when we talk about the various strategies and from a financial planning perspective, what factors did you consider when deciding whether to close out a property with a payday 3 as soon as 2 or less years, or pivoting to a longer term and actually financing a buyer?
Yeah, in no priority order. Because I think of each one of you guys, like we've gone through this, Rick, in particular, your portfolio. So here are the things you have to think about. And the reason I like the question, let me precede with this. A lot of listeners think in the terms business that all the deals are short term. Not the case. I just sold the properties you guys know in January. That was my first sandwich lease in 2013. That's 12 years. That's not a short term deal. And I could have kept it. Most people said I should have kept it just for the emotional tie. What do you have to consider? Personal. Where's your personal finances right now? Well, if your personal finances are, I need to make some money or keep making money, then you work hard and diligent and keep your buyer's finger to the pulse and you make sure they cash out. So you have paydays, payday 3s coming. And then Rick, I'll ask you for your payday 3s in a second. Secondly, how about, do you like the property long enough to keep it long enough? Third, do you like the buyer to stay in bed with them long enough, right? If you're going to finance them, do you like dealing with them? So if you don't like the property and you don't like them and you need the cash flow, well, that spells cash it out, right? So there's just some variables. There's probably more, but that's what I would think through if I was you.
Okay.
Rick, payday 3s. Here's a good example. You left your job. I'm going to turn it back to you guys for a second. You left your job and you said, all right, I kind of got to get some crank. You made a good salary, so I want to get some money going. So you've had how many payday 3s in the last year and a half?
3.
3, a total of what? Those 3, just of payday 3s, not the beginning.
Total of the payday 3s was probably close to 200K.
Okay, so great example.
No, I'm sorry. The total of the payday threes was about 130,000.
Okay, but instead of extending that though, because there's all kinds of things we could do, and there's a different show probably, a different workshop, but we can extend our deals multiple different ways and multiple different times, and we do it a lot. And we talk about that at the little private boot camps we hold here, which maybe we'll talk about at the end. So yeah, that's good, Rick. It's a good example.
Okay. Shift over to a very similar question. Throughout your journey, how did you balance the need to pay yourself against funding your business and building capital? Was there like a consistent percentage allocated for each, or did that change at various times? And if it did change, what influenced those changes?
Similar answer to your last question, meaning it depends. So when I first started, the very first help I needed was Nick and Sue. They're still with me, right? Hey, Nick's my son and Sue's our manager. So we had no overhead, and I was a solopreneur. I hadn't hit that, I got to grow this yet. So what did I do? At the time, Nick got 20% of all payday 1s, 2s, and 3s. Remember chatting on the whiteboard? We weren't that big. We probably had, when he came in, probably 13, 14, maybe 15 properties. So that was easy to do. There was no other overhead, essentially, except for Sue. As that changed, then we moved to, and that's just everybody do it instead of giving a seminar on it, but we moved to profits first. And to this day, I still practice profits first inside the Smart Real Estate Coach companies. In fact, whenever we do it, we do it the most diligent. That's when we're the most successful. And we get offered for a couple of years and we felt it. We're like, oh, that sucks. That's not how it's supposed to run. So it's very important. Profits first. If you look it up, Mike Makredes, who's been on our podcast as well. There's now profits first for real estate investors too, which is, gosh, you guys remember his name? David Richter? Maybe.
It sounds familiar.
Look it up on Amazon, guys. Profits first, Mike Makredes, and profits first for real estate investors. And I think it's Dave Richter, but it'll come up. That's the short answer, Rick. And that depends. Remember I said depends, because if you say there's two different types of companies, and you can run your business either way, and there's no wrong answer. Lifestyle, hey, I'm just going to pull the cash out. At the very beginning, I just pulled the cash out. I needed it. I was in a 900 square foot apartment, but even if I wasn't, if I want to just pull the cash out, do what I want to do, it's my priority. It's my money. Or I got to dump some back in. You're going to do that and grow, profits first.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And I probably use the profits first as well.
Nice. All it is buckets, right? I call it buckets, but I mean, literally on a weekly basis, the money comes in. We allocate percentages to 4 different buckets. Boom. You might have more, you might have less, but it's very, very organized when you do it that way. Rusty, you let Rick ask 2 in a row, so whoever's else is up.
Yeah, let's continue with that. So Rick and I did last time, we talked about the 4 quadrants of owner finance, and that's your favorite. Describe why that's your favorite.
Favorite strategy?
Yeah.
Owner financing? Well, I don't want to say it's the most lucrative, because that'd be like, you don't know, right? Because sub 2 with the right term and the right interest rate can be, but generally speaking, it's the most predictably profitable because we target free and clear. And I'll give the metric, Rusty, just because you opened the door. The metric for the Wicked Smart listener is 3 things. When you find a property in your marketplace for $200,000 or higher, most people can find that, even in low-end areas, and you structure at least a 48-month term with the seller, most of you can, we'll show you how, and you structure a $950 or more per month principal payment to the seller, you have 6 figures, period. Now, I'm not saying you're going to go out and find 5 of those a month. I'm not. What I am saying is once we teach you how to do that, why not go out and find those and get the 6 figures? So, yeah, it's my favorite. And usually, Rusty, dealing with those sellers, as you guys know now, it's fun because they're debt-free. Presumably, if they needed money, they were taking it out. They didn't. And so they want the best price. They want it over time, and they're fun to deal with. So I don't know if that's too simple of an answer, but that's kind of what I still to this day like.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one of the hardest to, in my opinion, to get that through to the associate that, you can do it, because sometimes they look at a $200,000 home, they're like, oh, I can't do it. There's not enough there's not enough skin in there, right, for me at the end of the day. But if you structure it right, just like you said, and it's a win-win for the seller, right? Because that's our ultimate goal, is to have them get what they want money-wise, and then we can structure it where we can benefit as well, right? So yeah, I think that's one of the hardest ones with the associates. Sometimes can't wrap their head around, but when they do, it could be pretty profitable for them.
It's funny you said that. Last night, I was talking to one of the President Club members, and she said, I didn't know if I should even bring you guys this deal. And I said, why? She said, well, it's free and clear, and I'm going to sell it for 85 grand. It seems way too small. I said, I had a deal. I don't know if you guys remember this. There's a deal in West Virginia. Forget her name. It was one of the first or second QLS events. So I don't know if you guys are all there. But she had a deal that she bought and sold. She bought it for 65 grand. And she sold it. And I think the profit at the event was like, I don't know, almost double. I know it's going to not make sense to the listener, but trust me, on owner financing with principal pay down, no interest, it's remarkable what you can create if you have the right term. So that was just last night, Rusty, that came up. Coincidental to your question. What else, guys? What's on your mind? You guys got me in the hot seat. That's it. I'm good with it if that's it. I'll tell you guys what, you made me think of something else, Rusty, that Mike, I think, asked, what would you change?
Yeah.
I think that'd be one of them, owning more property. Now that I think it, that just came out as you asked me that. Meaning, I did AOs, I did sandwich leases because it was quick, and it's frankly what I had confidence to do back then. And now I don't even think about that. I think about subject to owner financing, but that's my backup strategy. I booked a meeting today on Zoom for Tuesday with a seller because it's a bit of a drive. And he said, what do you want to do? You want to do a phone call? You want to come on? I said, tell you what, do you guys mind going on Zoom, you and your wife? He said, no. I'm going to show him just with a line down the page, as you guys know, the difference between an assign out, an AO, and a regular sandwich lease purchase, because it does fit him after I went through all the questions. But my brain, when I was asking the questions, went to, can I do this owner financing? Well, he's got a lot of debt on. He hasn't got much equity left. And can do sub 2? No, he's not comfortable. Okay. So I'm going to show him that on Zoom. If he likes it, I'm going to go out and get the deal done. So I'll do it. It's just not my first priority, to Mike's earlier question. Yeah. I said I would go back to you guys on a couple of things. Let me ask you this. I said one question. That's it. That was planned. Just one. How has coaching affected you guys? Because you could have just kept doing deals, right? How has coaching affected you guys, I guess, personal development wise? Is there any growth there, and how? And then deal structure wise, skill set wise. Might be different for each of you, but I got to ask this on a podcast, so I jotted it down for you guys. What are your thoughts? You guys, whoever wants to go.
I mean, first and foremost, it's kind of the way I look at it is just kind of passing it forward in a way, right? What I've learned over the years and helping others just gives me the gratification. I think that's number one. On top of it, it makes you stay sharp, right? With things are always changing, whether it's strategies or approaches that you have. Kind of like what you were doing, Chris. You went from focusing on these purchase AO now to sub 2 owner financing. So our mindset's kind of set differently, and being able to coach the associates makes you stay on top of it, right? Makes you keep that mastery in your craft at the ahead of the game, right? So it's helped me in many different ways.
Love it. Who else?
Yeah, I'd say the same pretty much for me. It's the personal and business growth. I know one of the biggest getting out of my comfort zone was getting on 3-way calls with a group full of, a whole, like on a mastermind or something that with a lot of people on. And it pushes you. And it's always, I'm pushing myself, but in helping, there's a lot of gratification when you're dealing with other associates and helping them get deals and be creative with them and watching them learn and grow. There's just a lot of gratification in that. So yeah, it's the same type thing that Mike was talking about.
Rick, a big one is what you said with calls. So let me put some context to this before Rusty goes. So we host the In the Trenches boot camp for the Wicked Spot listener to know. And I've been screaming about it just because it's the most effective thing we've done, where you come in our office, there's room for about 12 comfortably. We put as many as 20 in there. Rick's there. Rusty's coming up soon. Mike will be there on occasion. And the fact is, to make calls in front of the students, it's not easy. It's not easy for any of us. But every time you do it, you get better. You get sharper, because that's a lot harder. It's like Michael Jordan's in all his old books, and I'm dating myself a little bit, but he used to say that he practiced extremely hard, right, Rusty? Hard. Like, so the game to him was just another day. The practice was hard. Well, that's you guys, right? So you get better and better. So I love that, Rick. Rusty, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a coaching background. As you know, I used to coach high school sports for 30 plus years. And then getting into coaching here, for me, I was nervous at first. My personality is, I'm an introvert. I socially, I'm around adults. I'm not super aggressive in group and settings. But once I started working with you guys, my imposter syndrome went away. I felt like I was part of the group, right? And then I just got more confident. And it helped me in my business as well. Speaking with sellers, it just became more smooth. It was more conversational. And then as I got more comfortable in my own business, I was able to get more comfortable, like you said, getting in the trenches and making 3-way calls. I was nervous at first making 3-way calls in front of an associate because I didn't want to screw up, right? But after a while, it just became supernatural.
I realize you can't screw up too, right? There's no such thing.
Yeah, and then deal structure wise, I was always leaning on you or Nick to help me out with structuring the deal. And now it's just, I can just do it. Mike was my first coach, and I was just amazed on when I would show him a deal, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, just do this, do this, do this," and I was like, "How did you come up with that?" But now it's just become more natural. It's just easy.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was going to say, as far as In the Trenches boot camps, and it was back when we were having the strategies for ISEX, the strategy sessions were 2-3 days. And I know when I went down to some of those, and back when Steve Murray was doing it, and I'd listen to his calls, and I think, how did he just turn that seller from an absolute no? And he didn't. He was just he kept going after it and not giving up, and it turned it into a yes. And I always thought, geez, it'd be nice to be able to do that. Of course, now I can do that
in front of 15 people.
Yeah.
Let me get the link. So we keep talking about the boot camp. So the boot camp, we bring in 10 to 15-ish. Again, we had one that was crazy jammed in that. It's free, guys, for every level. But just to go check it out and look at what happens, go to smartrealestatecoach.com/ITTB podcast. It just stands for In the Trenches Boot Camp. We'll put that in the show notes as well. You know what we didn't do, guys, and I can give the episodes. I want these guys to be able to go back to the episodes that you were in so that they can get to know your story more, because this was about you guys hitting me, and I appreciate it. But let me give, I have the list. Let me give it to you. Rusty was on episode 402, where he talks about creating a game plan, because that's kind of his background. And then number 466, talking about different strategies. Mike was on, I'm going to date Mike here. Mike was on episode 103 back in 2019, and we were on the 500th. And that one was talking about, moving from his 12-hour-a-day job into investor. Probably a cool one for you to listen to. Mike, was that like 2 months after you left your job, July of 19?
Had to have been, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So good timing for you guys to hear that. And then he was on episode 371 talking about why every real estate investor needs coaching. Probably very appropriate to this. Rick's got some cool ones out. Number 371, Kickstarting a Career. Number 461, talked about his $90,000 payday one, and it happened to be his first payday one. How many of you listening right now would be affected in some small way by getting a $90,000 payday one in your first deal? And then episode 491, Rick actually walks through his portfolio with me, where he's approaching $1 million. Rick, I know you're teetering there now with deals in the works, but right around $1 million in all three paydays projected in his portfolio. You get to see the portfolio, and you get to see all his payday 1, 2s, and 3s, and that's on that episode. So those are cool for you guys to get to know them better and to get to know their story. If that doesn't give you hope and confidence and some clarity, I don't know what would. So, guys, have anything to add before we wrap up? I'm going to wrap up with some thoughts on QLS, and you guys might have comments on that. But anything else right now?
Yeah, I got one thing. I was doing a 3-way call for somebody just before this, and I got on with the seller, and the seller was completely open to the owner finance deal with really good terms. And we got done with the call. The associate that I was on with said, "Wow, you truly are the master." And I said, I didn't start that way, and I still got a long way to go, but I started just like you. I made a lot of mistakes. So it gives you hope.
Yeah, every single person. I had a student last night say to me in the president's call, she said, "I'm so embarrassed to send you my call. It's awful." And she described what she thought was awful. I said, "Well, it doesn't matter. No one died. Like, it doesn't matter. Just send the damn call and I'll critique it for you." Because we critique calls for those listening to this. Rusty, Mike, any last minute thoughts? If not, it's good. We'll go to QLS.
I don't know if it's okay to plug me and Rick's podcast, but I don't know if that's okay to do that.
Yeah. Sorry. I have two things I want to say. So Rusty went from coach, teacher, coming to the community. He just said he wasn't too nervous about it. Now he has his own podcast. So you said you're an introvert and you have your own podcast. Go ahead, name the podcast, please, because you and Rick do it, and you and Steve did it before, and it's valuable to get in there.
Yeah, it's called Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast, obviously, because I'm on the West Coast. Rick's on the East Coast. We're on our 42nd episode, and we just do the 4 game plans. We start out with a warm-up, which is mindset, skill set, system. So we touch on one of those things in the beginning, then we work on the 4 game plans, which is lease purchase on our financing, sub 2, and the AO, and then we have a cool down, and we just kind of leave that open for discussion. Lately we've been talking about the end of the trenches boot camp because it tends to be every time we do an episode, there's an end of trenches boot camp that week, so we should talk about it.
Nice. So like real stories and stuff like that.
Yep,
that's awesome. So on any podcast platform, Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast.
Yep.
They can find it. Awesome. You guys, that's a writer downer and subscribe. I've had people in the community say to me, "Oh, wow, that's awesome," because they're talking about stuff they've gone through and lived, and it's real. Talk about it in the trenches. It's perfect. I have a thought on the QLS live event, you guys. You've all been to a whole bunch of them. I was thinking of this morning when I knew we were going to be talking, and we'll wrap up. QLS Live 25 is in Boston again, like last year. It's October 7, 8, or 6, 7, whatever that Monday, Tuesday is. I think it's 7, 8. It's the 10th year. So here's what I was thinking about. I was thinking, man, what if someone came to me in 1991 after I got fired from my father's company, or 1995 after I went through an involuntary bankruptcy of my building company, or 2008 after the crash. And they said, "Hey, I've got 10 years experience doing exactly what you're about to do, or exactly what you just went through, and I'm happy to help you do it." Well, I've got 33 years, but the fact is we're going through our 10th event, and we're going to bring 10 years of in the trenches experience, and a lot of it's not going to be nice. It's going to be ugly. That's how you learn, right? Success is a shitty teacher. Rick, I just said this last week when we were together in the boot camp. It's a shitty teacher. How you learn is from all the experience and all the roadblock and speed bump. Well, how about we help you avoid some of them and you learn from us? So that's what's going on here in the 10th annual in Boston. Go to QLSlive.com for more info.
Hey guys, are you simply sick of juggling a dozen different software tools for your real estate business? I know I was, and I know I'm not a tech person, so it was frustrating. A subscription for this, you get a subscription for that, and they don't even work together out of the box. That's very frustrating, especially in the real estate world where your best time spent is going to be out in the field or on the phone with sellers. And now you're stuck hiring a tech guru just to make all that sync up. So let's ditch the chaos and let REI Black Book handle everything. Automate your lead follow-up, track every deal, analyze things quickly for you, make offers all on one platform. In fact, with the Wicked Smart platform, we now have access, if you're in the Wicked Smart community, to all the other associates' properties. Can you imagine that? So you're brand new in the business perhaps, and your seller looks on your website and sees 20, 30, 40 properties, instant credibility. So you're going to get everything on REI Black Book from our custom workflows for lead generation all the way to closing. It has it covered. Try it today for just $1, guys. Visit smartrealestatecoach.com/REIBB-DD. smartrealestatecoach.com/REI, B as in boy, B as in boy, hyphen, D as in dog, D as in dog.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast. If you're ready to invest in yourself and take your investing to the next level, check out our 90-day Jumpstart program by going to smartrealestatecoach.com/jump. That's smartrealestatecoach.com/jump, because now is the time to act boldly in this unprecedented market shift.